Hello everyone. Kana here, and welcome to Meet the Pioneers, a fireside chat with practice owners who are actively scaling up their practice by leveraging the power of robotic process automation and bookkeeping bots. So during the show, we'll speak with these practice owners to about what it takes to actually 10x their practice without significantly increasing their overhead or working all the hours in the day. And today we've got a super interesting fireside chat coming up. Our guest is Dan Rhyder of Level Accounting. Dan started his career as a technology specialist. You are not going to believe that. And is now applying his experience in client services and tech into building an automation first practice. Yeah,
sounds about right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I might have to steal that.
Feel free to, Dan. So welcome to the show, Dan. Welcome to the show. So do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, your practice, and your journey so far, Dan?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I spent probably about 18 years in IT, doing various technical roles and management roles and whatnot. And then I kind of found myself in a transition into accountancy. So I retrained as an accountant, and then basically practice started 2016. So back end of 2016, we started off just like me and in effect my father-in-law. Grew the practice. Had a few clients already, but we grew the practice quite rapidly. In our game, for what we class as rapid anyway. Other people might not class it as that rapid. But yeah, we've kind of just grown and grown since then. Father-in-law's no longer with us, but from our point of view, it's pretty much me plus the staff that we've got. Specialise mainly, I'd say. Well, I always used to say we specialise in construction, but that's kind of started to dilute a little bit recently. We're just starting to pick more and more clients up in various different sectors. Mainly, I'd say they've still got a little bit of construction theme to them, so maybe services into construction and the trades. Though we do seem to be picking up a few hospitality recently, which is interesting because they're pretty good, especially from an automation point of view. But we do seem to be starting to pick up in that side of things, which is great. Mainly do compliance, your usual kind of stuff. We do a little bit of outsourced accounts department work. So accounts receivable, accounts payable, all that kind of stuff. So that I do like doing that side of things, and we seem to be making a hell of a lot of progress in bookkeeping at the moment, which, to be fair, is probably what we're pretty good at, to be honest. Like I always say, to get your bookkeeping right, the rest of it kind of falls off the page. So that's where we are. We're based in Bolton. There's there's 6 of us at the moment. So we're not massive, but we're not small either, and we're still growing. So it's good. Yeah, it's quite enjoy it. It's definitely transition from IT. Definitely changed from that side of things. So that's pretty much us.
Oh, nice. So it's interesting, you said. So for you, now that you're growing all sorts of different types of clients, you're expanding the services that you provide, what are some of the steps that you're currently taking to ensure that your practice continues to grow in a sustainable and profitable manner?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. There's obviously the systems we use. So people always talk about the stack. So the stack of apps, or the IT basically, the IT systems, that's key to how we grow sustainably and controlled, because we need to make sure that things in the right way. Staff's the other one. You can't grow without staff, and they kind of both go in together really. So the kind of people that we look to employ would have IT experience, or experience with the decent amount of apps and whatnot, but also that they need to have the experience of what they're doing, in the account side of things. So we'd prefer to try and get people at the higher level and try and automate the mundane, the lower level stuff. Makes a lot more sense to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. So the combination of factors almost. So there's the tech stack, there's the quality of people that you recruit, focus more on higher level, less on the lower
Yeah,
level.
yeah. Or we bring them in and train them in the way we want to do things, and then increase the wages accordingly. So, say if they came in and they had the right attitude, the right blend of skills, but they weren't quite as qualified, then we would go through a process of teaching them what we need and getting to the level we need, and then obviously bringing them up as quick as we can. Really, I'd rather have a set of higher level people rather than a load of, like, I don't know, I don't want to be what they used to call a sausage factory, in effect, where it just kind of, people are just tapping away and you bring on a lot of apprentices, get them to do the work and then kick them out the door at the end of it. That's not really what I want to be doing. It's not, we unfortunately have had somebody leave recently, but it's because we can't provide the kind of work that he wants to do in the future. But you're always going to get that no matter what. But ideally, you bring them in and you keep them. It's difficult to get staff at the end of the day, so you want them to be doing interesting work,
Yeah.
and decent level work, so you can pay them well, and afford to pay them well because they're doing higher paid work, but they're also doing stuff they're interested in.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that, because I think it helps us to segue nicely into the next question, which is, so I know that you're implementing or you've deployed bookkeeping bots in your practice, right? So how did you first become aware of, what led you to a decision to make that investment?
Well, there's a few things. One is I was fed up of clicking OK and zero, just to do things that it's just almost like you're doing things the same over and over again. It always seems a bit stupid to me to do the same things over and over again. A machine can do that, so that then leads you to say, well, AI in effect, or what a bot is in effect a machine. So what can we find to do that? So I'd looked in the past, and I tried a few things, but they never worked. So there was a plugin I remember finding that was supposed to go into Chrome that could click on OK on everything, and that never actually works. As soon as you put it in, it just crashed. Like, brilliant. That's a good start, so we can't use that. And then I think I spotted you. I can't remember where I spotted you. It was on LinkedIn somewhere. Somebody mentioned it and I went, that looks great. That looks exactly what we're looking for. So then I contacted you and we started to look, discuss what we need to do, trial it, all that kind of stuff. But the initial thing was, I didn't want to do this kind of work. I'm just clicking OK, especially on some of our clients who've got thousands of transactions a month, and they're all the same thing, or they're all like they all match up already. They just need clicking OK. Now, I don't want to pay somebody to do that, and I don't think anybody would want to do that really. So it makes sense to get a bot to do that.
Yeah, which ties back to what you said earlier about staff wanting to do interesting work and perhaps not having enough of that for them to do. But perhaps if you, by delegating some of these lower level tasks to bots or machines, you're freeing up capacity.
Yeah, I also see it as a waste of money for the clients. If the client's paying somebody to sit around to do that, whether that's me or an external bookkeeper, whatever it is, also an external bookkeeper, then that to me it's not really fair. They're not getting any value out of it. Whereas if you're doing the harder bookkeeping, where you actually need to look at something and put it in the right place, all that kind of stuff, then they should pay for that. Or just clicking OK on something to reconcile it, that seems a bit. How do you charge for that? What do you charge for that? We do have a way of charging, but that's still quite a. You could have a client that's got thousands of lines, and if you charge them per line item, they're going to pay you a hell of a lot of money per month just to click OK. Or vice versa, you could have somebody with hardly any lines, but they're all quite complex. So yeah, that's kind of thing you don't want to be charging for, really, or you're going to be uncompetitive, really.
Mm-hmm. So from your perspective, what are the kind of tasks that these bots could be doing, and what kind of tasks or work, are better suited to humans?
So we have two things that we use specifically with the bot, which is obviously going through reconciling, so low-level reconciliation. So if so we're using zero, for example, if it already sees that a bill has been paid, a purchase has been paid from the bank, it'll click OK because it matches it up, and it's clever enough to know that date, depending on a certain date range and things like that, it'll click and say OK on that. Same with money coming in, things like that. Also with the rule side of things, it's clever enough to know that if there's nothing else there and there's a rule in place, it'll say OK and go through that. But it's also clever enough to know that if it's outside a certain day range, then don't touch it. We're not 100% sure, so it needs to be dealt with by somebody else. So that's a lot of what we do. The other side of things is telling us when bank feeds are going to run out. So we get an email that comes in to tell us that a bank feed's going to expire. Now we might choose, we might choose not to bother sorting that out and download it from somewhere else, but at least we know. Or we might go after the client and say, "Can you please refresh this?" They generally just ignore us, but that's at least we're telling them.
At least.
They're the two things. There's other things we've looked at, but we've not done it yet. So we might start looking at BrightPay next and start seeing if we can automate sending out certain things out of that or submitting certain things. It just depends. I'd like to really start to go into it a bit more. We've done 6 months of this, maybe a bit more.
Yeah,
it might be longer actually. I think the next step for us is to start. What we always do, at least once a year, is re-review our stack and re-review our processes. So we'll need to re-review our process again and say, now we know what it can do, start to see, right, what else can we eliminate out of what we're doing day by day to send to the bot to let it do the stuff rather than us doing things. That's the next step. But you've got to. There's no point having a bot in place if you're not got some kind of structure and processes in place. You need procedures, processes, standards, all that of what you're going to do. If all your clients are completely different, then that's going to be quite difficult to automate. But if they're all standardized and you're dealing with the same kind of thing, then and you do it at the same time, same way for all your clients, then you can automate, but you can also scale as well.
Absolutely. And I think before we go on to this call, we're talking about the email and systemizing.
Yeah, email, love the book.
Yeah, love the book.
So I read that just as I started out, the E-Myth. Obviously, there's an accountancy one, which is one I read. And that always stuck in my mind of, right, we need to be doing this. And I'll be honest, I'm not perfect with it by any stretch of the imagination. Still find myself doing a lot with myself. But the intention is always to be able to structure it in a way that we're doing the same thing over and over again, so we always know what we're going to be doing. And then there's only little bits that are different. You're never going to get it perfect, but I've always used that as like a baseline for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, one of my favorite phrases, you'll be glad, I'm sure you'll be shocked to know, is McDonaldizing the business.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of McDonald's and the fact that every single thing, as manual as the business is, every single there is systematized. How you flip the burger to how you prepare the bun to everything else, and it's mapped out and everybody understands how to do it.
And that's the idea. That's the ideal, isn't it? Because once you do that, you can automate things. If everything's different every time, then how do you automate it? Because then you've got so many rules in place. If this, do this. If this, do this. It's going to break down at some point and do the wrong thing. Whereas if you're doing the same things over and over again, then it's going to work.
Absolutely. So Dan, can you share any specific examples of how having this bookkeeping bot or your bookkeeping bot help you out has helped scale your operations in any way, in terms of efficiency gains or in terms of cost savings or ability to increase revenue, as an example?
Well, we've increased revenue every year since we started, so that's pretty good. So whether that's to do with the bot or not, I don't know. But yeah, profit's always been pretty much the same standard levels. What we've been able to do, so what one thing it has done is we've recently had a member of staff who's left, or he's just about to leave actually. But when we've come round to replace, we've changed what we're getting this time. So previously we might have said, right, we want somebody who's a bit lower level and can bring it up, and they can do the low menial stuff. But this time we decided to go much higher up and go back to what I was saying before. So it's absolutely focused our minds on what we need next, rather than having to think, well, actually, if we get somebody this level, they're not going to do that, and this, that, and the other. So it's helped us from that side of things. Efficiency-wise, it does save us time every month. It's absolutely. We have taken a lot of clients. We've not increased the staff numbers. We actually had somebody leave November last year. We've not noticed any drop in turnover or efficiency. So billing rates is still the same.
Okay.
And we've got the same number of clients, but one man per less. So that probably tells you, there's other efficiencies that we bring in, but that probably tells you a lot. Unless that particular member of staff was useless, you never know. And they weren't doing a lot.
I hope he's not watching this.
No, exactly. But that could always be it. But I can only go for what the numbers say, and that's where we're at the moment. So that kind of gives you a good picture of where we're at. So it definitely helps. I believe it helps.
Yeah, no, exactly. And from what you're saying, if you're getting someone in at a higher level, then that means that you're going to be able to pick up higher margin, work.
That's the intention, yeah. They do high margin work rather than do menial low end work, and us having to employ somebody to do that, or even look at outsourcing. We've considered it. I don't know, with outsourcing, especially to outsource to somewhere like India or somewhere like that. You've got to have a real think about whether that works with your clients and whatnot. I've always, on one side, I really like the idea of the cost savings, but on another, that's the accountant in you. But on the other hand, you've got to think about the ethical side of things, of whether it, sending your stuff out to somebody who isn't you is acceptable, really. So I don't know. I've not made my mind up on that one, but we don't need to at the moment. We just, we'll ride this as much as we can, and then see what happens after that.
Absolutely. So again, from my experience, I'm finding that people are nearshoring rather than outsourcing, using robots as well. So people who formerly either have been outsourcing to, the likes of India and the Philippines, are starting to see the benefits of nearshoring,
without a doubt. Because you still, at the end of the day, with the bot, it's not perfect, but you've still got to monitor it. But it's the same as any staff member like that. If you outsource it, you have to monitor it, make sure they're doing the work properly. Every so often they'll do something that it shouldn't be there. But that's more the rule set rather than the way we've organised things, rather than it making a mistake. Humans make more mistakes from what I can see. I've had plenty of we had apprentices in the past and they've made some horrendous mistakes. And obviously you monitor, that was expected, isn't it? They're brand new at something. So you obviously monitor what they're doing and you go, this needs changing. So I'd probably say the bot's more consistent than an apprentice, without a doubt. So that's definitely. I think from that side of things, I'd rather put as much through the bot as possible, because that's controllable and monitorable, rather than sending it out, to another country, without a doubt.
So, and I know we've been talking about bots and bookkeeping bots and RPA and all those kind of things. I mean, there are people who are probably watching this or listening to this who have never come across the term. But it's possible. All right. So how would you, assuming you were in a networking event, and somebody were to ask you what's this whole RPA thing and bookkeeping bots and bots and machines, what's it all about? How would you explain it to them?
I'd just say it's automation. It's just like buying a machine, in effect. That's what you're. It kind of goes back to what we did years ago, where we went through Industrial Revolution, all that kind of stuff, and you start to standardise things. It's a similar thing, really. The idea is to make things efficient. That's what it's about, is efficiency. That's all we try and use it for. So yeah, it's good. There's obviously future sides to it, whether it's going to be intelligent enough to start to understand what's going on. We had a mess around the other day with, is it Chat GPT or whatever? It's, it seems to be the new thing, and we put in a list of bank transactions into Chat GPT, give it some information, and then it asked what location the business was, and it gave us a rough guess of what these transactions were. And to be honest, it was pretty good.
Was it?
Yeah. There was some of it was like, that's really, really good. Some of it was terrible, but you could tell. But I'd say 70% of it was actually very close. So that was quite interesting. I'm going to look at that to see if there's any way of integrating it into Xero. I'm not a programmer, so I'll probably struggle with that a bit. But it was still as an experiment. It was really interesting to see what it could do. Because that, if you did that and you had that kind of feeding into Xero along with the bot, or it feeds into the bot and then Xero, you could potentially make it really, really good. It'd probably be, it would work quite well. So that, it's like I said, it's about efficiency. And if that's it, even if that just came up and said, right, this is what's missing, and we could automate that process of telling us what we thought they were, maybe putting a note on Xero or something like that. That would save us a load of time.
And intelligence, because you were speaking about intelligence earlier, and intelligence is coming to RPA as well. So so the next level will be machine learning, which will enable the bot to, as it's doing more and more work, is understanding a bit more how you work and all those kind of things. So that's definitely on the tracks. So stay tuned for that one. But really, for people who don't know what robots are and RPA, so really and truly, in very simple terms, it's a piece of computer software that is programmed to do what you and any human being can do on a desktop or laptop computer using a keyboard and a mouse.
Yeah.
So if you can think of any task that you can do on a computer, just by either typing it in or by clicking or dragging and dropping stuff in, then these programs can be taught to do exactly the same thing. Obviously, the task, if you want to get the most from it, if you've been listening to Dan talk about it, then you probably realize that it needs to be standardized, it needs to be repeatable, it needs to be well structured, for you to be able to get the most out of this book, because they don't come in with the intelligence. It's not AI. So,
No.
Or like ChatGPT, which will search everything and then come to conclusion about what needs to happen. This is not it. This is the first level. If you're thinking of building an AI stack, the first level is to have an RPA bot, add machine learning to it, and then build AI into it as well, and then you have a very robust.
That'd be the future, wouldn't it? In effect, I don't think it's ever going to get completely replace what we do, even from a bookkeeping point of view, because there's too much. There's too much to do with what the particular client does. Knowledge in that side of things. Maybe it could learn over a bit of time. Maybe you could get to a stage where you taught it over a few months, and then after that, it could do most of it. I don't know, because it's all new, isn't it? But you can certainly get like we do now. You can certainly get rid of the mundane clicking OKs and working what something is and what all that kind of stuff, and sending things out rather than cut and paste and put on an email. Just get it automatically sent out. You can do all that side of things with it.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you spoke about ChatGPT. So on that, there's been something trending on LinkedIn recently, and I'll like to get your take on it if you don't mind that. Right. So the poll went something along the lines of, do you think that ChatGPT and RPA bots would replace accountants in the future? Or do you think that accountants who use ChatGPT and technology like RPA are more likely to replace those accountants who don't?
I'd say the second, without a doubt. I can't see anything like that replacing a decent accountant, because there's too many variables. You could get somebody to type in the questions and potentially get an answer. One is you don't know whether it's the right answer, but I suppose you don't know whether when you're talking to an accountant whether they actually know what they're doing or not. So that's potentially a similar thing. But the only examples I've seen where people have put things into ChatGPT are by accountants, so they're asking the right questions, but the skill isn't asking the right question. Well, the skill is knowing what people are actually asking for, isn't it? So, for example, My wife's not going to ask the question of how to do a tax in the same way as I would ask it. How to best structure refers and this, that, and the other. It's about you asking the questions and drawing that out of them. So I don't know. Maybe it would eventually get to that stage, but I'd be surprised. I think there's still there's too many variables in it to be able to different things. Even as far as what you do, where you can't know everything. Maybe it'd help for if you want to find something. So rather than I'm not quite sure on this, I'm going to Google it. In future, maybe I don't know, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Yeah, that might be a great way. And then you start to learn, because you in the past you learned how to ask questions on Google in specific ways to get the answer you want, especially in IT. When I was doing IT, it was always a case of if I don't know, I'll just Google it and I'll eventually find what I'm looking for. Maybe that'd be the same with ChatGPT, where you'd ask that instead. And it might come back, you read and go, that's full of rubbish, that I'll go and do it a different way. But to be fair, it's probably just as easy, if you don't know, most of us have tax outlines anyway. Just phone one up and ask them.
And I think you're probably right. I think ultimately, recognizing the fact that there's really two types of knowledge. There's general knowledge and there's specialized knowledge. So I think when it comes to the general, you probably have technologies like AI and ChatGPT that can help, but the specialized bits, you still need to get a specialist in to help you out with that.
Exactly. You think about a lawyer, for example, you could probably ask it about the law and it'll probably tell you everything you need to know, but how you interpret that and whether you'd be happy to use that and to sue somebody, for example, that you probably wouldn't do. You still want somebody knowing what they're doing and whether it's worth doing and all that kind of stuff. So all them side of things, I just don't see replacing it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll all be out of a job in the next 10 years.
Well, that's 10 years. But I think probably what's going to happen is in the next few years, you'll get those accountants who are, probably adopted early adopters of technology. They'll probably be the ones that will take out the more antiquated accountants, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's always happened anyway, though, hasn't it? That's you go back to when Excel came out and everybody started using Excel. People started using Excel. They were much better, more efficient than the ones that were still using paper. And you can still see those around now that use Excel versus anything else, and they're antiquated now. So you're always going to get that. You just need to keep on top of your tech really, and keep on getting. It comes down to automation, doesn't it? What can you do more efficiently? It's the same thing. But a lot of them didn't. They get used to doing it in a certain way, and that's it. Then, we're not going to change because we're already we're happy with what we do. But then that doesn't really help you grow. But then again, a lot of these accountants aren't interested in growing. If you've been a lot of people I see, especially the ones around here, they've been the same size forever. So. Yeah, it's always been pretty much the big accountants around here. They're all the same ones. They've not changed and they've not grown. They've not gone smaller. They're pretty much the same. You get the startups like us, and there's a few others in the area that grow quite well. But them other ones have always been there.
Okay. And are you thinking in the future? I mean, with all these other accountants around, are you thinking of acquiring?
I did that pre-COVID. I'm not sure I do it. Well, no, I would do it again. But the thing is with that acquiring, and that's probably going way off on a tangent now because I can talk all day about this. But from the point of view of acquiring, I like to find people who aren't automated, and ideally, it's valued a little bit less, and then you can bring them on more and automate them. But there's a lot of effort in doing that. It's a lot easier to take on a new client and teach them what they need to do rather than try and teach somebody else the way you want them to do things. I think there's definitely opportunities there to buy some of the older ones, but you've got to have some kind of synergy there to be able to do it. And you've also got to have cash. Nobody's going to give it you for free. so you're going to have some kind of capital to go after them and buy them out. And the deals are, I think the value appears to be going down, from what people say. I don't know. I know profit, from what I can see in the industry, is dropping. So maybe the value does go down accordingly, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, there's definitely, I think there's two parts to that really. There's the smaller ones were how do they sell? So you've got maybe a one-man band. What do they do? So they've either got to get out at a certain point, or they slowly fade away. I think a lot of them just slowly fade away. So then eventually the clients are either leaving, going somewhere else, or retiring and whatnot. A lot of them may have sold out because of MTD, but that's been pushed back, hasn't it? So that's, that kind of takes that pressure off a little bit. But then you've got the bigger ones where they maybe got, maybe twice the size of us, or maybe a bit bigger, where they've got a decent company in place, but they've no succession plan. So then what do you do about that, really? Traditionally, you'd take on somebody and then they'd want to become partner, won't they? But I think that path's kind of dying a little bit. It's difficult to get decent people of that age anyway who want to buy in, and then do they want to buy in? It's a lot of money to buy in, really. There's a lot of younger people who've got problems getting houses, never mind buying into a business. So where'd you get that kind of money from? So this probably is, supposedly it's a seller's market at the moment, but I'm not convinced.
You're not?
No, not really. I think there'll be a lot. Maybe in the next few years there'll be more and more going, but it depends, doesn't it? Yeah, I think I'd never say never. We the one we bought was a small practice, and it was right before COVID. So the challenge was, how do you integrate somebody during COVID in lockdown? That was hard. And we sorted it, but it was still hard. I think it'd be a lot easier this next. We did another one. I think it'd be great to go into a bigger practice that was antiquated and really turn them round. I think that'd be a really good opportunity, because you could really make some cost savings there. But then cost savings probably means staff savings, which is going to suffer problems.
Interesting you say that, because I was thinking automation first all the time. So I was going to say, what kind of role would automation or technologies like AI and RPA, bring to that conversation to make it a bit easier or less painful?
So what? Sorry. So what kind of roles would it? What?
Yeah. So assuming two practices were coming together. So assuming you bought another practice, right? A bigger one that's antiquated. That transformation that needs to happen. How would the likes of RPA and robots help to help in that process? Help to make it, a bit more. A
bit easier. But what you probably want to do is, obviously, if you're buying a practice, you're bringing staff with them. So obviously, you need to look at the level of staff and ability you've got that's coming in. If you brought in, assuming that they were using Xero, for example, and there was some kind of synergy there with the type of clients and whatnot, then you'd want to try and eliminate that lower level of work. And then, so RPA would definitely make it more efficient. Then ideally you could then use that to scale the practice more, so get more clients in on the back of the integration. So for example, with the gentleman that we bought out, he's like a lead machine. He just brings in clients all the time, and the main reason he wasn't doing that beforehand is because he just didn't have the capacity. So they were already at capacity, and he didn't want to grow anymore, really. But he had lots of people wanting to come on board because he was doing a good job, but it didn't take them on. So suddenly we went from not taking anybody on to just saying, yes, you can come because we've got all this capacity. So you'd ideally do that, where you'd free a load of people up. You wouldn't have to make any kind of redundancies because you were bringing even more work in, and then you scale. It's like economies of scale. In fact, it just gets even bigger. So that's kind of what we did. Well, I'd want to do that at the next level. So if you took on another practice of a similar size or bigger, then that'd be brilliant if you could do that. That'd in effect pay for you buying the practice as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, reduce all the profits.
Yeah, exactly. You'd start to see that. You'd get extra profits, which then you could reinvest. You could definitely do a lot with that on a. I'm not sure about massive practice whether you could do it, but you could definitely do it on a decent sized practice.
That's good. One to think about, definitely.
Yeah, I'd never say never. Yeah.
That was it. So on your journey, right? Did you encounter any challenges or problems, obstacles in adopting robotic bookkeeping in your practice?
The main one is his staff being a little bit against it. So I'm a bit of a nightmare for just saying, right, we're doing this now, and this, I want to implement this software or what have you, and just tell them that's the way it's going to happen. So I won't say I'm the best at what you class as change management. Bringing them along with me. The main challenge was at the beginning, just making sure it was doing what it was supposed to, and then as soon as it made a mistake, people would be like, I told you it didn't work, that kind of thing. It's like, well, still made less mistakes than other people, so let's not judge it too, quite yet. So that's the main challenge really. The rest of it is, there's nothing, really that bad about it.
Okay. Can we pick up on the mistakes that you mentioned? Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, when I say mistakes, it's just so like, for example, sometimes like it might cause something that's very close in dates and the same amount of money to the wrong place, but that's quite easy to do anyway. So that would be the main one. So it might say, I don't know, something's 250 quid and there's two and very close dates. It might not be clever enough to realise which one's which, so it sometimes goes in the wrong place. But that's pretty much it. The other mistakes will be like where we put a ruling wrong. We've been a bit too wide on the rule. That would have happened anyway. Do you know what I mean? But that they still pick up on it. So that would be the main thing, really. It does what you tell it to do. That's what the rules are the rules. So it's
so
not.
It doesn't deviate from the rule. So if you say this is what you need to do, it will keep doing the same thing.
Exactly. So if you, it's like if you told a member of staff to do something wrong, it's the same thing. If you told them that, I don't know, such and such a line was always repairs and renewals when it wasn't, then they're always going to do that, aren't they? So you've just got to make sure that you've got you monitor it to make sure that that's in place. But that's the same except for any rule really, or anything along them lines. You've got to monitor to make sure people are doing the right things. It's the same thing.
And wherever needs changing. So it sounds to me like it's something that could be easily fixed by tightening the rules a bit more.
Yeah, or just realising. Sometimes it's not worth changing the rules. Sometimes it's worth saying, right, we'll just need to check it afterwards.
Okay.
To make sure, because actually it still saves us more time. That's it's not always about perfection, is it? Sometimes because you've got to check these. You can't just assume everything's right and send it out. You've got to check these things over anyway. You should always review things. So as long as your review process is robust, it's not going to matter anyway. You just need to make sure it doesn't keep doing it. Otherwise, you're going to have to go and strip it out and put it back in again. The good beauty of Zero is that it's quite easy to do that. So it's not the end of the world, but you don't want to keep doing the same mistake over and over again, because it will do that if you don't rectify it. But that's where you do come in, and we tell you, it needs to do this, or can you just tighten this up a little bit, or make it a bit wider because it's missing these things. And once you've got over that, I think probably 2 months maybe, that's what we did. And then after that, yeah, it's fine. But like I said, you still got to keep checking it. You can't just assume that it's going to carry on being perfect. Zero changes, even down to things like bank statements sometimes changing the way they're imported. That can cause you problems. So you still got to do that, and make sure it's right.
True, absolutely. And so how do you see the future of bookkeeping automation evolving, and what potential benefits do you...
I think it goes back to what we said before, to be fair. I suspect it will just get more intelligent, and potentially, I don't think it'll get to a stage where it's doing it all itself. I think it will get to a stage where it's offering solutions. So maybe it's saying, we think this is this. I don't know what this is, but we think this. So, and then, is that okay? Yes. So I don't think it'll get to a stage where you go into Zero and it's all perfect, it's all done. Yeah, I don't think it'd ever be clever enough for that. For example, for payments coming in, it's for 2 invoices. I don't think it's ever going to be clever enough to work that out. To be able to go in and say it's 2. But I think it might be clever enough to go, I think this is 2 invoices. or I can't find this. So rather than the member of staff going and looking and going, not sure what it is, I'll ask the client. I think it might get intelligent enough to maybe not ask the client, but at least give you a report that says, then we can review that. Yeah, we're happy, send it to the client.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So have the human in the loop almost to get to the point, see something, not sure about it, contacts a colleague to say, what do you think? You need to do something about it.
Exactly. That I think it'll get there, definitely. And I think that would be great. I think that'd be nice, happy medium, that really, to be able to do that.
Okay. And how do you currently balance using technology, and managing, providing a personalized service to your clients? How does that work hand in hand, or do you keep it entirely separate?
Yeah, no, we everything we do is technology based. So with the whole we try to involve the client as little as possible with the technology, because we're generally dealing with people who aren't great with technology, or it's not really their forte. So we try to keep them away from that as much as possible. So the technology, I always say, is for us to be as efficient and do things as quickly and to the best of our ability as possible. That's what we use the technology for, and for me to basically scale the practice. That's the technologies that we use isn't really for the client. The more we use it, the more time we free up, which means we can spend more time with the client, talking to them and advising them and whatnot, or giving them a little extra, the above and beyond type thing that we like to do, rather than just saying, no. If somebody pays a certain amount of money, I'd like to spend more time giving them value rather than doing something that's just has to be done.
Okay, so having the tech in place is helping you to. Sounds like it's helping you to provide more of a personalized service to them.
Basically, yeah.
Exposing them to the technology itself, because they don't need.
We're not. I wouldn't class us as like a bells and whistles type practice. So we'll go beyond. We'll have a chat with them and whatnot, and this, that, and the other. But we're not giving. We're not up there like in the quality and all that side of things. We're not the. Sound like we're doing ourselves down. We know where we stand, if that makes sense, and we position ourselves in the market in a very specific way. So we're not ridiculously expensive, and we're not giving a service that you would expect to pay that for. We give a very specific service, and you pay what you pay for. But we like to give slightly more than that, so that they feel special, but they're not paying over the odds.
Yeah, and having automation and robots is helping you to provide that above and beyond.
Without a doubt, yeah, without a doubt. I think you couldn't scale without it. Otherwise, you'd be there all day, every day. You can't scale without technology now. It's just impossible. How could you if you didn't have the technology in place, then how can you price accordingly? You'd be way more expensive than everybody else, because everything's based on time, and you'd be taking longer than everybody else. As much as we don't bill on time. Yeah, that's not, we bill on what we provide. Yeah, so there's incentive to do it as quick as we can, really, because of what we're doing. But even if you were billing on time, you'd be producing a lot less for what you're billing. So you're not going to be cost effective, are you, or competitive against other people. If I can do something for half the price that somebody else charges, and I can make more money on that, then that's and produce the same quality, then that's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I make the same amount of money, so I'm not doing myself out in any kind of profit. It just means I need potentially less staff. But one thing that I will say is that no matter how much you automate, you do need staff no matter what, because unless you don't want a holiday, obviously, but you're probably going to need staff. So there's no point automating to the nth degree and then finding all your staff are sat around doing nothing. It needs to go hand in hand with growth, really.
Absolutely. So because it ties in nicely what I was going to ask, which is there's this fear that by adopting robotics and bookkeeping bots that people are going to be made redundant in practices. But what do you think about that? I have my thoughts on that. But
I suppose there's two parts to that. One is, if you're running a practice, you should be doing the best thing for your practice, which maybe doesn't go down too well. But I've never got to that stage, so it doesn't really, because we've always just like automate. Ideally, we can take on more clients without more staff. That's really what we want. So I've probably never been in that boat where we've automated that much that I can. I can't. Sounds bad. That I would need to get rid of someday. I would probably try and find them something else to do, or start to push to go into somewhere else. But I suppose you shouldn't stay the way you are just because you've got somebody there. You should look to make them. Well, for me, you want to maximise what you're doing, really, and the production you get. But like I said, there's not. If you need what 3 or 4 members of staff just to keep going, then there's no point automating. But if you've not got a replacement for the work they're going to do, there's just no point whatsoever. We need a minimum of, I think we'd probably 3, to be fair, so to offer the services we're doing, and to include holidays and all that kind of stuff. So if I automated absolutely everything, I'd still need those 3 people. So you
would think exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd just be paying somebody to sit around doing nothing. So there would be no point going down that route of automating absolutely everything, unless we got to a stage where we're completely at capacity, which is what we normally do. Get to capacity, try and automate some more, then hit that capacity, try and automate some more, and then eventually, right, I need to take on another member of staff.
But you know what? I'm going to hold on to that. So it sounds like your framework almost is get to capacity. Then what did you say? Automate. So that
Automate.
You can create more capacity.
Create more capacity, get to capacity until the stage where you're struggling to automate anymore, and then automate anymore, and then employ. That makes sense to me, because the things you can automate also changes as you scale. There's different things that you can do and whatnot. The bigger you get, the economies of scale, all that kind of stuff. So it's always worth reviewing constantly. You might find that there's something you automate now that actually you don't want to automate anymore because it needs to be a bit more efficient or a bit more personalised. It depends on what it is.
So it is. So it almost feels like it's a balance of that.
Yeah,
almost.
we used to automatically submit payroll all the time. We had a piece of software that automatically always submitted it. But actually, when we looked at it, it was like, you know what? It's not necessarily the best thing doing that. So we don't do that anymore. So it'd be great if we could, but it potentially caused some issues. So we just said, we're not having those. We're not having that risk of it causing any issues. So we'll make that process slightly more manual. It's not completely manual, but slightly more, just to make sure that we don't get any problems in the future.
And then sometimes as well, do you find that some of those manual bits helps you to understand your clients and how they work a bit better as well? Opportunities.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, without doubt. Now certain things change as they go along. We started using Wise for payments. So within Xero, you can pay your bills via Wise. So you basically go in and say you need to pay a lot of people. Click on a lot of payments. Say pay by Wise. Make one transfer into Wise, and it pays everybody. So it's probably a bit overkill if they've only got a few, but we've got 1 or 2 clients with a hell of a lot of subcontractors that work for them. Now, that was taking them hours and hours every week to make payments to people. Now it takes them 10 minutes because they just click on a button and pay them all. So that's an automation that we brought into the clients, which then conveniently means we don't need to bookkeep it because it's one transaction in the bank. so they're doing, in effect, our job for them. So that's something we understand with the client. But you know what, this will save us some time and the client some time. And then we try to get all our. It works really well for for what we class as a labour-only subcontractor. That works really well. So we try to get them all to do it now. And we've got a bit.
Get to Wise.
Yeah, get them all onto that, because, like I said, that automates their payment process, makes it a lot easier, and then we don't have to worry about what's been paid. You know, why is the bill set £1,000 when he's been paid 8 or whatever it is? You know, it eliminates all those kind of weird and wonderful problems. So yeah, so that's how we did. You know, so it's not necessarily about us, but you know, if we can save the client some time, even better.
Yeah, absolutely. We're coming up to top of the hour, Dan. So probably have time for just one more question. What do you think?
Go on, I'll do what I can.
Good stuff. So, what advice would you give to other accounting practice owners who are interested in scaling up their operations? And what should they be considering when they're looking to adopt bookkeeping robots?
Obviously, standardization is the key thing for any scale up. So if you've not read the E-Myth, read the E-Myth, sorry, because that will absolutely get you focused on what you need to be doing. So that's the first part. Is, you know, a lot of people have done this already, but that's kind of the first bit you really need to be looking at is, can you standardize what you do? Can you procedurize all that kind of things, and then get that in place. So make it nice and clean, what you're doing, and then start to look at your automation side of things. You know, if it's a bot, great, that'll save you a lot of time, but that's in general for any kind of automation. It needs to be standardized. So that's the first place I'd start with. So you might have to go through a bit of a cleanup process. What we did was we found that as we've grown, the first set were really clean and always did the same thing. Then it got a bit messy, then we clean them up again, and then it got a bit messy, and then we clean up again. So we're always going for this, almost getting people back on track. Especially on COVID, it all went a little bit like all over the place, and we took that other thing. So we had to clean them up and get them in. So there's no point, like the ones that weren't clean, there's no point putting them onto the bot, because it ain't going to make it any better. To get them cleaned up, make sure the zero's nice and sorted and whatnot, and you know the procedures and whatnot. Then put them onto a bot. Obviously your bot, but yeah, put them onto a bot, and then start to maybe do a few clients at the beginning. Make sure you're happy. Bring more clients in, and then go from there. I wouldn't recommend just going the whole hog on everybody straight away. that would be mental. So slightly dip your toe in the water. Make sure you're happy. If there's any issues, get them resolved quickly. Keep working on it. Make sure you're happy over a few months, and then start to bring companies in on a period of time. It's not I don't think it's just let's go for it. You know, you've got to bring it in slowly, and that's what we've done, and that's what I'd recommend to anybody else.
Awesome. So just to recap, so that's standardize, read the E-Myth, so that helps you to standardize.
Yeah.
Once you standardize, look at automating, be that using other automation tools or RPA and bots. Automate. And then the third thing you said was, don't do it big bang. Do it in
don't do a big bang. Yeah, not for something like the bot.
Yeah,
maybe some of the other stuff you might have to anyway, but definitely not for the bot. Just do it over a period of time. Get it in. It doesn't have to be a long period of time, but do it over a period of time. You know, make sure you're using it with friendly clients in the beginning. It would be the other tip. And then just start going from there. We've not told our clients that we're using the bots. Whether you should do or not, I don't know. That might be something to look at. We did call it bots, so if they look in the user list, then they'll know. It's up to them.
I doubt clients will care that much as long as the job gets done.
Yeah, exactly. We've never had anybody question it. There's plenty of people that go in and say, well, you know, they review the books and whatnot. None of them have questioned it.
Good. So I think that's it, really, guys. I think you've had it from Dan on what to do. He's shared a lot with us in the last hour. I always ask this, Dan, is there anything else that you want to share with the community, with anybody that's watching this?
No, we've gone through a hell of a lot, to be fair. It's like being a lecturer at school where they say, "Have you got any other questions?" and everybody goes quiet. I don't know. I'm not good in these situations. No. There's to me, it's just a case of, like I've just said, try it. Worst case is you don't like it. You're not happy. At least you tried it. With zero, you can strip everything out. It's not hard. If it makes a mistake, you can reverse it all. Check it over. Right. If it's done a month and you're not happy with it, just reverse it all and do it yourself. It's not like it's the end of the world. So I'd say just try it. Make sure you're happy, and then scale it from there.
There you got it, folks. So make sure you try it if you haven't done it before. If you haven't explored the opportunities within robotic process automation or robotic bookkeeping, I'd like to call it, let us know. We're happy to set up a meeting with you, do you a demo to start with so you can see what it looks like, and then potentially, give you a free trial. But like Dan said, it's all about the future. The future will go to the brave. The future goes to the brave. You need to try it to see what it could look like. And if you're going to try it, look to standardize, look to automate, and then ultimately, if you're going to be getting clients signed up to it or assigning clients to it, do it in a gradual way rather than big bang. And there you have it, folks. Thank you very much, Dan. It's been really interesting and wonderful, having you on today.
Superb. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much.
No worries. All right, and we'll speak to you some other time. And to all you gentle folks out there, look forward to seeing you in the next edition. Cheers.
Brilliant.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.